Hey everybody, hello. I guess, am I talking to people?
Yeah, there was 7 people connected just a couple minutes ago.
So should I begin?
I think so.
Okay, hello, and it's good to talk to you all, although it's from long distance. And I'm going to give some short machshavos about Chanuka that hopefully will be meaningful. First, everybody knows the famous question of Rav Yosef Karo, one of the most famous questions in halacha. That is, we find, after we reclaim the Beis Hamikdash, a pach hashemen, a jar of oil, and there's only enough oil to burn for one day. And miraculously, we put it in the menorah, and it burns for 8 days. And that is why the holiday of Chanukah is 8 days. And the Beis Yosef asks the kasha, since there was enough oil for one day, the only miracle is 7 extra days. If it's 7 extra days, Chanukah should be a holiday of 7 days. Why is Chanukah 8 days? There are at least 500 answers to this question, because I've seen svarim in which there are 500 answers. Time does not allow, nor does my memory allow, to give you 500 answers to the question. But I'd like to share with you 3 terutzim that might give us a perspective about what we think about during Chanukah. Answer number 1 is that even on the first day there was a miracle. And the miracle was not that they found the oil, but the miracle was that they bothered to look for the oil. The Jews had just gone through a very, very difficult war, a war in which they were fighting the greatest military power in the world. And one has to remember that not only were the Chashmonaim fighting against the Greeks, but the Chashmonaim did not have the support of most of the Jews. Most of the Jews, just as the Jews today, were largely assimilated. They adopted Hellenistic mores and philosophy. They looked at the Chashmonaim and the Maccabees as fanatics, primitives, retrogressives that were preventing the assimilation of the Jews and the acculturation of the Jews into society. And thus the Chashmonaim and the Maccabim, their spirit was broken. They didn't really know what the point was of going on. And yet they looked for the oil of purity to be able to serve Hashem, even though, as a matter of strict halacha, they are permitted to use impure oil, under the principle of Tuma Hutra B'tzibor, that the laws of impurity are suspended when it comes to communal offerings. So the miracle that is celebrated the first day is not so much the miracle of what Hashem did, but the miracle of the resilience, the optimism and the faith of Klal Yisrael, even at moments of great adversity. And therefore, what we celebrate that first day of Chanukah is the miracle of the Jewish soul. The other days, it's the miracle of the oil that kept on burning. That is answer number 1. Answer number 2. Let's examine the premise of the kasha. The kasha is asking, why celebrate day number 1? Day number 1 is nature. The miracle is only the extra days. But you see, that very question presupposes a distinction between nature and miracle. But a Jew believes that even the so-called natural order of things is nothing more than the expression of God's will. Even nature is miraculous. We say in our davening every day, 3 times a day, Al nisecha sheb'chol yom imanu, because of your miracles that are with us every single moment of the day, that we talk, that we walk, that we love, that we think, that we're zocha to have Eretz Yisrael and to have Yerushalayim, even though we're not yet zocha to the Beis Hamikdash, which should be rebuilt b'mheira v'yameinu. So every once in a while, Hashem makes a supernatural miracle just to remind us that we shouldn't take the ordinary miracles of life for granted. That is why the Ramban says that the very word for miracle, which is nes, actually means a banner or a flag. It's an attention getter. We fall into a rut because when things happen the way they normally happen, we don't automatically assume Hashem is in charge. So Hashem does the supernatural to make us realize that even the natural is miraculous. Thus the Gemara tells us in Tainus, but the great Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa, that he was so poor that his wife did not have oil to light for the Shabbos candles. And he told her to light vinegar. And when she said vinegar does not burn, his response was, the same God who enables oil to burn can equally enable vinegar to burn. And thus, the 7 miraculous days makes us realize that even the ordinary burning of the oil is a nes. The Chassam Sofer says that this is the meaning of a passage in the well-beloved song Ma'os Sur that all of us sing after we light the Chanukah candles. And in the stanza dealing with the Chanukah miracle, there is a phrase that says, B'nei Bina Yemei Shemona Kavu Shir Urenanim. The people of understanding, for 8 days they established song and rejoicing. And the Chassam Sofer asks, why are the Chachamim who enacted the Chanukah Yom Tov, why are they called B'nei Bina, men of understanding? Now, the literary answer might be that the poet needs a rhyme. Yemei Shemona, the 8 days, have to rhyme with something, so B'nei Bina creates the rhyme. That's probably a legitimate answer. But the Chassam Sofer offers a deeper insight. What is the difference between the quality of Chachma, wisdom, and the quality of Bina, which is understanding? Chachma is the acquisition of a lot of knowledge, a lot of data. A person takes in a lot of information. Bina is the quality of extrapolating from the information that you know to apply it to a new situation which you did not directly know from your own observation. It is the quality that Chazal call Mevin Davar Mitoch Davar, to understand one thing from another thing. That is the quality of Bina. A great posek, for example, is not only great by virtue of the knowledge that he has, but rather by virtue of his ability to apply the knowledge to new situations. A person might know the whole Babylonian Talmud and not know how to paskin on matters of electricity because there's no mention of electricity in the Gemara. The Chacham would say, hey, the Bavli doesn't say anything about electric light, so I don't know. The Mevin takes the principles and applies them to new questions, new technologies, new situations. So says the Chassam Sofer, a Chacham who simply acts on the basis of his own observations would have made Chanukah 7 days, because the first day was normal, there was enough oil for 1 day, the other 7 days were miraculous. But B'nei Bina, but people who have the quality of Mevin Davar Mitoch Davar, they extrapolate from the miraculous to understand that even the normal is a miracle, for which we have to have constant hakarat hatov, gratitude and appreciation to the Chasdei Hashem, for the loving kindnesses of God that surround us every single moment of our lives. So that's answer number 2, that the reason why Chanukah is 8 days is because we understand from the miracle that even the teva, even the natural order of things, is a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Let me give you answer number 3 to the Beis Yosef's kasha. And again, there are many, many answers. But this answer is from the Maharal. The Maharal actually says that the 8 days of Chanukah are not because of the miracle of the candles at all. The 8 days of Chanukah simply represent, as the word Chanukah itself means, the dedication of the Beis HaMikdash. That when we regained custody of the Beis HaMikdash that had been desecrated and contaminated by the Yevanim, and we were Zocheh 3 years to the day on the 25th of Kislev, because the 25th of Kislev 3 years before is when the Yevanim conquered the temple. 3 years later on that exact day we got it back and we purified it. When we purified the Beis HaMikdash, we had a Chanuka Sabayis. We had a consecration, a dedication of the Beis HaMikdash for 8 days, just as Moshe Rabbeinu, when he consecrated and dedicated the Mishkan, had an 8-day dedication ceremony. So the Maharal actually says the 8 days of Chanukah is not because of the miracle of the Neiros. If it would just be because of the miracle of the Neiros, it would have been 7 days. But the 8 days is to commemorate the Chanukas Habayis. So the question then becomes, if we're simply commemorating the Chanukas Habayis, then why do we light candles at all? So says the Maharal, because we need to remind ourselves, if we would just commemorate the victory and the Chanukas Habayis, we might think that we were the ones that did it. We might have the attitude of pride. Kochi v'yotzim yadi, it is my might and my ability. Asoli is kol hachayil hazeh, that accomplished everything. So Hashem gave us a supernatural miracle that we clearly know we didn't do, to give us a perspective that even the military victory and the gaining of the Beis HaMikdash came from Hashem. And therefore the Maharal says, the Yikar Yom Tov of Chanukah is on the victory against the Greeks and the dedication of the Beis HaMikdash. And that is why in the Al HaNisim prayer that we recite both in benching and in Shmona Esrei, there is no mention at all of the miracle of the jar of oil. There is only mention of the victory that we have against the Yevanim, who tried to destroy the Torah, that God delivered the many to the hands of the few, the impure into the hands of the pure, the Rishayim into the hands of the righteous, and the dedication of the Beis HaMikdash. There is no mention of the Pach Hashemet, because the holiday of Chanukah was not because of the Pach Hashemet. But there's one final thought I want to leave you with, which I feel is maybe the most important thought of all. And that is the fact that the rededication of the Beis HaMikdash and the miracle of the Pach Hashemet was not the end of the struggle against Yavan. The war against the Yavanim and the war against Antiochus continued to be fought for more than 20 years, almost 25 years more. So the miracle of Chanukah was not a miracle at the end of the struggle. The miracle of Chanukah was towards the beginning of the struggle. Now let's analyze, let's think why that is so important. As I indicated before, the Chashmonaim are a small group of people who are faithful to God and faithful to Torah and willing to give up their lives in order to be able to defeat an enemy that is intent on destroying Torah and Kedusha from Am Yisrael. But it's not easy to be a Maccabee or a Chashmonai. Number one, you're fighting the greatest force in the world. And number two, your own people think you're fanatic. And a person can often feel, what's the point? Who am I? The powers against me are so great, are so powerful. And I'm so small and I'm so ineffectual. What's the use of my struggling against an enemy and against a power that is so much greater than I? What do the candles teach us? The candles too, the little bit of oil, was only enough for one day. And one could have thought, what's the use of lighting it for one day if tomorrow it's going to go out and we're not going to have any replacement? But the miracle of Chanuka teaches that you do what you can, no matter how ineffectual you think it is, no matter how trivial you think it is. But when you do as much as you can, God will bless your efforts beyond that which you thought was possible. The one day turns into 8 days. But the one day would not have turned into 8 days if we wouldn't have lit that one day. The lesson is very clear and very powerful. We live in a world of darkness on many levels. We have the darkness of persecution and man's inhumanity to man. We have the darkness of assimilation and ignorance within the Jewish people, where so many are far from Torah. We have the darkness of people's personal depression and despair, our illness that people might be suffering. And our job in life is to be lamplighters. Our job in life is to generate the light of Torah, the light of Kedusha, the light of Emunah, the light of faith and hope and optimism. And sometimes the darkness is so overwhelming that we actually ask ourselves, what type of light can I generate? My light is so puny. My light is so ineffectual. What difference will it make? But Chanuka reminds us that we do what we can, no matter how small we think our light is. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes over and magnifies our light beyond which what we thought was ever possible. But it has to start with us. We look for the Shemin. We light the light, no matter how small. And then Hashem blesses our efforts beyond what we thought is possible. In many, many ways, this was the mission, and this is the mission of Ohr Somayach itself, in which confronting a world filled with Jewish ignorance and alienation, our Rosh Yeshiva tried to light a small candle. And Baruch Hashem, Hashem has blessed that candle beyond which was we thought possible. So in that sense, I have to say, although we're not supposed to have favorites of Yom Tovim, but when I think of Ohr Somayach and all of the good work that the Rosh Yeshiva, they should be well, and the Rabbeim all do with great, great devotion, Chanuka really is one of my favorite Yom Tovim, because it reminds us that even the small light can pierce the darkness. So thank you, may all of you have a wonderful, elevating Chanuka, and may it be a time that each of us can rededicate the Beis HaMikdash within our heart and within our soul. Thank you. Freilich Chanuka. Okay? Okay. Thank you.